What if everything you've learned about awakening has been completely misunderstood, misinterpreted, or misspoken? What if everything that you've listened to in the past has come from someone who either has misunderstood completely what is being said and has found a false level of freedom, or you've listened to someone who has had a genuine experience of their true nature, but hasn't been very good at explaining or interpreting it to you? Therefore, you misinterpret or misunderstand what it is that they're saying. Maybe a teacher has come to a genuine realization, but hasn't fully integrated it to the extent in which they are capable of helping you understand what that really means. What if you can still seek? What if seeking is not a problem? What if having an intention is not an issue on the spiritual path? Just imagine this. We get taught that we need to end seeking and do all these things, but we never told what that end of seeking is supposed to look like and what we're supposed to find that ends the seeking. The problem that we have is that if your mind is tailored towards ending seeking, it means it has something it wants to find. If it doesn't feel like it has found the thing it's looking for, it won't stop looking. So what if there was a new way of experiencing the spiritual path, or at least a different way, alternative way, a way that is not so commonly spoken about? What if you can have a goal? What if having duality is not an issue? What if we can identify with the body and the mind? What if that is actually not the problem at all? What if desiring and true welcoming is the new acceptance that we usually speak of? These are the topics that we're going to debunk today, and we're going to start with seeking. Instead of seeking, what we think is that we're supposed to just stop seeking without actually feeling like we have found what we're looking for. We don't need to stop seeking until we've found what we're looking for. All we have to do is transmute the energy, and what that really looks like is to change the intention of what it is that we're doing. That's it. Seeking, adventuring. Seeking wants to remove itself. It wants to remove resistance. It wants to remove suffering. You can't just remove suffering and resistance. Adventuring is open to what it finds. It doesn't have an expectation of what it's supposed to find. It's like a genuine, curious, passionate investigation. What if that was a possibility instead of seeking? What if you don't have to just stop seeking and do this thing? What if you could just be in the adventurer? And this isn't something that we have to learn, and it's not something that can be taught. It's something you naturally are capable of doing. When you're a child, you naturally do things because you want to have fun, you see? You do them because you're curious. No child goes and plays in the park in order to remove its suffering. No child goes and plays on the swings in order to remove its resistance. The child doesn't think about resistance or suffering. It isn't suffering, but it still does things, you see? There's a possibility, and this is something we have to kind of come back to and wake up to. There's a possibility, by the way, that you can do things without the desire to remove your suffering with it. You can have an intention to do an activity, and that activity be an expression of joy, even if you're not awakened. You see? There's a possibility of that. We're not just a possibility, that is the baseline condition of why we do things, other than when we get a little bit older, we start to hit puberty, we start to meet girls or guys or to have our first kiss, and we start to move into suffering. We start to identify with things, and that process of identification, we over-identify, and therefore thus believe we are that with which we are identifying. Then we start to suffer. So what if we were able to re-engage with the spiritual path out of a genuine care, passion, and interest for understanding the truth, rather than having a passionate interest for truth for the sake of removing our suffering? Because what happens is when you do this for the sake of removing your suffering, you'll be on the path for the next few lifetimes. until you finally start to investigate this path because you genuinely care and you're genuinely interested in the truth. That's the only way we'll be receptive to understanding. So you don't have to stop seeking. All you have to do is just start adventuring. Be interested in the truth, which you are, and notice the pattern that takes you into the fact, oh, I'm using the truth to remove my suffering. No, I don't just want the truth to remove suffering. I actually care. I'm actually interested, like a scientist, like a philosopher, like Plato sitting in the library with Socrates. They're just exploring for the sake of exploring the stars for the sake of curiosity's sake. And what if you can have a goal? What we don't realize is that you can have a goal. Your mind will have a goal regardless of whether someone tells you there's no goal or not. The thing is, we have to be clear on what the goal is. The goal is happiness. The goal is not to remove suffering. The goal is happiness. Everything that we think we want is, in summary, so that we can experience what we call happiness, which is what our true nature is. It's all a gravitational pull towards our true nature, metaphorically speaking. And that experience is what we call, from the human point of view, happiness, which means that happiness is not a feeling. Happiness, the average person will call happiness a feeling, and they will refer to the excitation that takes place when something good happens. Oh, I'm happy. There's an excitation, there's a joy, there's a thing, there's something phenomenal happening in my state of body or mind. The only reason that there's an excitation simply being, if you think of this as flat, an excitation is something that goes up or down, but there's just an excitation, there's a movement, right? Something is not the same as the baseline was, right? An excitation as a wave or something like that. All emotions are excitations. Normal baseline state, emotion, excitation. We look for the excitation in happiness, which is not the happiness. That's happiness takes place, which is our true nature, which happens when there's no resistance. And then because of the lack of resistance, the excitation takes place. If we look for the excitation, we never find happiness, because the happiness only takes place when there's no resistance. And when we're looking for the excitation, we create a baseline level of resistance. And that resistance only wants the excitation, will only be happy when happiness is the excitation. Therefore, we set a massive condition on happiness. And that condition is happiness is a state of mind. This excitation is a state of mind or state of body. It's like a dog looking to be wagged by its tail. The dog wags the tail doesn't wag the dog. So a dog can never be wagged by its tail, the dog can only wag the tail. That's what it's like, looking for the excitation of happiness as the thing happiness is. We don't get happy from the excitation. The excitation is the expression of happiness, you see? So if we make happiness the goal, happiness is here. If you ask someone, why do you want to remove your suffering? Oh, because I don't like it. It's uncomfortable. It's this is like it's like this lower vibrational feeling. This is the path it takes you on, which takes you down. It takes you to want to do stuff, sticks and stones to make sounds, fire, rocks and stones to make fire. This is just material level stuff. You don't find truth by doing that. If you ask someone why they want happiness, they say, oh, I like happiness. Happiness feels good. Happiness is this. And all of a sudden, this is an example. There's this higher vibrational understanding of truth. We might not notice it. And the reasons that we give to happiness is the ultimatum is that we don't actually know. There's reasons why we want to remove our suffering. The reasons why we want happiness, there isn't one. We don't know why we want happiness. Every question we can ask will always take us back to the same place. I don't know. Why does happiness make me feel good? I don't know. Why do I even like feeling good? I don't know. It's causeless. In other words, it's a causeless desire. It's a desire that doesn't even have a reason. We don't know why we like it. In the same way, we don't know why we like art, why we like music. Why do I like music? Why do I render it likable? If it's just a neutral consciousness, why do I just render it enjoyable? You see, these are the signals of truth in our ignorant experience that shine with truth even in the apparent ignorance. Happiness is a noble desire. The only thing that is incoherent is to look for happiness in an object. This is what Ramana Maharshi said. Happiness is the correct desire to have. It's just incorrect to look for that happiness inside an object, namely any thought, feeling, perception, or object in the world. So you can see, you can be an adventurer, and you can still look for something, and you can have a goal for happiness. The next thing to see is that duality is not a problem. If we have a yin and yang symbol, we have the white and then we have the black. If we, let's just say Adam and Eve are in the Garden of Eden, and that's symbolizing of the white, which is the absolute, which is just pure absolute truth. And then all of a sudden let's just say they leave the absolute truth, they go into duality, which is like leaving the Garden of Eden. Because they were already in the absolute truth, and they still technically are, because the Garden of Eden isn't really, they never really left, but they don't know that yet. So let's go back to our metaphor. The Garden of Eden is symbolizing the absolute truth. You can't remember that. You can't remember the absolute. You can't go, oh, I was just in the absolute. Now I'm not in the absolute. Oh, this is terrible, isn't it? And let me go back there. They don't even, you can't even know there's something to go back to, because there's nothing to remember. There's no mind in the absolute. Mind is a localization of the absolute, which creates an individual point of view, which is what we call experience. Without that absolute, you can't remember it. You can only remember things. The absolute, pure infinite consciousness, is not a thing to remember. So you can't go, oh, let me go back to my infinite absolute true nature that I was just experiencing. Where am I now? You can't do that. So all you know, technically speaking, from our point of view, is the black, which is duality. All you know, all you appear to know is duality. Because you only know duality, what happens then is that gravitation pulls us to recognize our true nature. It's just like gravity, like if you throw a stone up in the air, it falls back down, right? There's no reason it does that. It's just natural. Not God going, oh, my children have left. Let me get them back to the Garden of Eden. Come back to me, children. There's no man in the sky doing that, right? You just throw a stone up in the air and it comes back down. It's just gravity. What we find then is that because we can't remember our true nature, duality appears to be real. Duality becomes reality. And this is where separation is born. And separation is the thing that creates the suffering. It's not the duality. Duality is fine. It's our relationship to duality, namely believing that everything is fundamentally dual and separate, that creates suffering. So this is when someone has an awakening of their true nature. They experience the white in reference to the black, and they say, oh no, it's not dual, it's non-dual, it's non-duality. There's no separation, and that's my true nature. But we can't see that if the only reference point we seem to have had is duality, because that's what creates separation. That's the birthing of experience. Experience is birthed. We dissect ourselves from it. We identify with the body and the mind, which is natural. It's an intelligent mechanism. The only lacking in intelligence is the part where we believe we are fundamentally that with which we identify. So this is the next thing. It's okay to identify with things, so long as we don't believe we are that with which we are identifying. So most people say, you're over-identified, you're identified, I'm so identified with my body, I'm identified with this. There's no problem with that. What we're really saying is, I've identified with my body, and over a long period of time, I am now fully convinced I'm actually the body. That's what we're really saying. So when you hear people talk about when you need an ego to do things in the world, you don't need an ego. The ego is the belief that we are temporary, limited, and finite. The ego is the part of ourselves that has believed it is that with which we are identifying. It's not the act of identifying. So what we need is a mind. You need a mind. A mind is your thoughts, feelings, and perceptions. That's what a mind is. It's the collection of thoughts, feelings, and perceptions, and that creates the shape of the body. It creates the illusion of the body and the illusion of the world. Now, it's not an illusion in the sense that we shouldn't treat it as real. It's illusory in the sense that the rabbit doesn't really come out of the hat, but the rabbit is real and the hat is real, but the illusion is that coming out of the hat. So duality is not the problem. Over-identifying, believing we are that which we identify with, is the problem, and therefore seeing everything as separate is what then therefore creates separation, which creates the separate self, but that's also what allows us to have an individual experience. So it's also an intelligent mechanism. And then the intelligence brings itself back to itself by understanding that it's not separate. So then it can live in duality with complete coherence, knowing it's not dual. So then duality shines with reality. And therefore, we don't need to see the world as real. You keep getting told the world is an illusion. Everything's an illusion. Everything doesn't exist. I have made titles on that, but I do it for the purpose of meeting people who think that or want to think that and then debunking in the video. Things do exist, but their existence doesn't come from the thing we think it does. Things are real. Their reality just isn't coming from the thing itself. So everything is real and should be treated as real. It is a complete disrespect and a lack of integration or a lack of understanding or a lack of maturity to not treat the world as real, to not treat your family as real, to not treat them as if they're not their own unique individual point of view that is had from their point of view with their own unique lifetimes and experiences and whatever it is. And yes, that's a story, but what's the problem with the story? This is what the universe does. It makes a story. It's quite literally a storyteller. That deserves its own respect. It's just a story. You're just listening to the story, man. You need to let go. This is all a load of spiritual nonsense, new age nonsense. It is complete integrity to respect the story, to respect individuals, and to respect the world, and to treat it as though it is real without believing in its false reality, and to know its true reality. So we can still seek, so long as the seeking is adventuring. We can still identify. We can still be with duality. We don't need to get rid of duality. We don't even need to get rid of illusions. We don't even need to get rid of limitations. We don't need to do anything. This is the craziest thing. What we're told is kind of skewed, and it kind of goes through Chinese whispers over time, and it's misunderstood. And I hope this video is able to clarify some of those things for you. I know I get a little bit fiery, a little bit passionate, but most of it's just like a character that I enjoy playing. I hope everyone is enjoying these videos. I have a retreat at the end of the year. It's taking place in Marbella in Spain. The link is in the description if you'd like to check that out and send an application through, and we can send you out with a leaflet and give you a little bit more detail. Aside from that, there's a free community. Would love to see you there if you'd like to learn more. Have an amazing day, guys. Take care.